So, picture this. A global superpower feels its grip on the world starting to slip. What does it do? Well, according to the analysis we're breaking down today, it doesn't just pick one strategy, it picks two. It launches this incredibly high-stakes dual plan, kind of like driving a chariot with one wheel aimed at the super advanced future and the other wheel stuck firmly in the confrontational past. It's a massive gamble to reverse its fortunes. Let's dig into how it's supposed to work. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the big idea, this dual chariot. Then we'll look at each track separately. First, the crazy gamble on AI, and second, the revival of Cold War tactics. We'll see how this is playing out right now with Germany as a case study, then zoom out to see what it means for global conflict. And finally, we'll explore the tough choices this forces on every other country. All right, so the whole thing hinges on this metaphor, the dual-track chariot. The argument is that this declining empire, facing new rivals and problems at home, has basically decided that sharing power is not an option. Instead, it's making an all-or-nothing bet to reclaim its spot as the one and only global superpower. Okay, so what is this strategy, really? It's a dual-track approach, but the key thing to get is that this isn't an either-or situation. These two paths, the futuristic one and the retro one, are designed to work together. They're two sides of the same coin, and they reinforce each other to achieve that single goal, holding on to global power. And here are the two tracks side by side. On the one hand, you've got the future path. This is a huge bet on winning the AI race, hoping to build a brand new kind of digital empire. And on the other hand, you've got the retro path, basically dusting off the old Cold War playbook to tighten control over your allies and wear down your rivals with conflict. Let's start with track one, the AI gamble. The sources we're looking at don't mince words. They call this a battle for the nation's destiny. It's an all-in push to control the entire 21st century economy by achieving absolute, unquestioned dominance in technology. And the playbook for this is laid out in 3 clear steps. First up, clear the field. This isn't about fair play. It's about using things like the chip axe to knock competitors out of the race before it's even really started. Step 2, an all-in push. This means the entire nation gets mobilized, and any breaks, like pesky regulations, get removed to go full throttle on AI development. And the endgame? Set the rules. The goal is a new kind of digital colonialism, where the whole world becomes dependent on your AI systems and your standards. Okay, now let's shift gears to the second track. This one isn't about building some shiny new future. It's about recreating the past. The analysis argues this is a very deliberate plan to bring back a divided world, because, well, a divided world is a lot easier to control. And this track has its own 3-step playbook. Step 1, create an enemy. You launch a worldwide information campaign, a cognitive war, to frame every single issue as a simple showdown between democracy and authoritarianism. Step 2, vassalize allies. You use the fear you just created to force your allies to give up their independence and just fall in line. And finally, step 3, provoke conflict. The idea here is to keep a state of controlled chaos going in different parts of the world, tying up your rivals in costly proxy wars that drain their energy and their wallets. Now, to really get how allies are controlled, you have to look at how Europe's security was set up. The analysis argues it was designed like a pyramid. Instead of everyone working together, NATO was put right at the top, with the EU basically underneath it. It's argued this whole structure was built to make sure Europe could never really act as a truly independent power on the world stage. And this quote from Everest Bartolo, Malta's former top diplomat, just nails the result. He saw it happen firsthand. The lines between the two got so blurry that major decisions for the European Union were effectively being shaped inside a NATO framework, which really undermines the whole idea of an independent EU foreign policy. Okay, let's get into the main case study here, Germany. The analysis doesn't frame this as just a series of bad policy choices. It calls it a pathology report. As in, they're documenting how a powerful, sovereign nation gets pushed toward a kind of self-destruction, all to serve the interests of its main ally. And this quote from German politician Seven Duglin really sets the scene. She's pointing out that, from an outside perspective like Beijing's, there's a lot of skepticism about European countries that are seen as having given up their sovereignty, with Germany being a top example. It really hammers home this theme of lost autonomy. The analysis points to this incredible outside pressure for militarization, and it starts with this number. The sources claim that NATO is pushing for Germany to ramp up its military spending to a staggering 5% of its GDP. I mean, that's a level that is totally unprecedented in its modern history.
So, what does 5% of GDP actually look like in cold, hard cash? An estimated 220 billion euros every year. To put that in perspective for you, that is nearly half of Germany's entire federal budget right now. A number that big suggests a complete reordering of the country's priorities. It raises some serious questions about the future of its entire social model.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. You can see the direct trade-off here. The sources point to budget decisions just like this. The smaller bar shows proposed cuts to citizen welfare, around 1.8 billion euros, while the bigger bar shows 3 billion in new aid for Ukraine. This is presented as Exhibit A for how domestic needs are being put on the back burner for geopolitical goals.
So, this all boils down to what the sources call a double strangulation. On one side, you have forced militarization, which turns Germany into a frontline state in a new conflict. And on the other, you have forced deindustrialization by cutting off its cheap energy supply, which gets rid of it as an economic competitor and pushes its companies and capital over to the US.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. These two tracks aren't just running in parallel, they are feeding each other. The new Cold War, with all the chaos and instability it creates in places like Europe, drives money and smart people to the perceived safety of the US, which directly fuels the AI gamble. And in return, the AI gamble churns out advanced weapons, surveillance tech, and better tools for that cognitive war we talked about. It's a perfect self-reinforcing loop. So, what happens when you smash an AI arms race and a new Cold War together? Well, according to this analysis, the result is a pretty dangerous and confrontational future for the whole planet. The source material predicts three big consequences. First, the world divides into hard blocks. That middle ground for neutral countries, it's going to shrink fast as everyone is forced to pick a side. Second, a much higher risk of a hot war. When you mix an AI arms race with proxy wars all over the place, the odds of a direct fight between major powers go way up. And third, the global economy breaks apart. We're talking about global supply chains, tech, and finance splitting into totally separate competing systems. And this brings us to the final critical point. In this new world of confrontation and division, the analysis suggests that every other nation, especially the smaller ones, is staring down a really tough set of choices. The sources basically lay out three doors. Door number one, become a vassal. You trade your sovereignty for a security guarantee, but you risk becoming a pawn and a potential battlefield. Door number two, strategic hedging. You try to play both sides, balancing between the blocks. It's possible, but it takes incredible diplomatic skill. And door number three, join the new system. You decouple from the old order and help build a parallel world with new groups like the expanded BRICS or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And so this whole analysis leaves us with one massive looming question. As that dual chariot, powered by AI ambition on one side and Cold War strategy on the other, picks up speed and reshapes our world, every nation has to figure out which path it's going to take. In this new game, the choice between alignment, trying to stay neutral, or building something entirely new might just be the most important decision of the 21st century.